Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be all about industries that tend to be recession proof. Number one, the medical profession. So obviously at the minute, it's probably the busiest industry in the world with everybody fighting COVID-19. But even outside of the front line, you've obviously got pharmaceutical companies that are a big makeup of that industry. They never really experience a dip. Think about it. Whenever any of us needs medication, like I'm asthmatic, so I'm regularly buying pumps, you will never experience a dip. Once you've got something like asthma and tons of other healthcare issues, you will consistently buy those products. So they very rarely experience a dip in a downturning economy. And even going to the vaccine, obviously Bill Gates said recently that he thinks we're about 18 months away from finding a vaccine. And then once we do find a vaccine, he said we're going to be busy building factories to get it distributed as quickly as possible. Well, think about it, people like Glaxo will obviously be helping the manufacturer of that vaccine. So they'll be even busier once that's found, whether that's 6 months to 18 months away. Obviously, we don't know yet.
Our daily job is about making new vaccines. And so I think it'll be, 7 to 10 will look so promising that we should get them the funding to not only do the research, but also build the factory.
Those guys are going to be extremely busy. They're probably, if anything, because of the way that this recession has come about from healthcare related, they'll be even busier than they've ever been. Some of you are probably thinking, yeah, but that's public sector side of it. What about, say, private doctors and nurses? Again, they tend to be equally as busy. Even if people have had their wages cut, a lot of people will be using their insurance cover to continue to use that healthcare. So while they might experience like a plateau in terms of that, they might not actually keep rising for a recession, they'll definitely keep an even kill. Cool. Number two, utility services. Utility services are the backbone of how we function in our everyday lives. So utility services are things like electric, water, gas, and it can even be things like refuse. So they're things that we need purely just to function, just to get by. So they do not experience any sort of downturns in recession because we continue to need them. The only thing that will happen with those types of companies is that two things tend to happen. One is they get put under a lot of pressure to lower their rates, just because obviously if everyone's getting pay cuts or losing their jobs, it's something that would massively benefit the whole nation if they were able to do that. The other thing that happens is that they tend to almost have to extend credit to people. So you would have seen it perhaps in the news at the minute in terms of the things like utility companies and mortgage companies are doing their best to elongate the process of being able to pay your bills. One of the things that I want to point out with the utility sector and even the sector before is that remember that industries aren't just what you see on the face of it. Yeah, so to give you an example, a few years ago now, I worked with E.ON to install an energy centre to one of our large residential sites. Now, what's important to remember about that is that I was dealing with essentially their construction arm of their team. So I was dealing with another project manager, their contracts manager, as well as their new business team. So some people call it new business. Obviously, there's a video that Sally's done talking about new business, and some other businesses call it sales, depending on the function and what it's doing for that team. So what I'm trying to get across is that always remember, whether you're watching my videos or someone else's videos, that a lot of these industries, you might sit there going, well, how's a gas company help me? How's an electric company help me? That's not what my background's in. But these businesses have tons of functions to them. They've got accountancy, they've got marketing, they've got sales or new business. And going back to the point I made earlier about Bill Gates saying that with COVID-19 vaccine, that we're going to have to build factories for it. Obviously, people like Glaxo and other pharmaceutical companies are going to have to be building these facilities. They're going to need like construction teams. Or just think about your industry. Obviously, I'll always fall back to construction just because that's my background. But think about what your industry is and think about, oh, actually, they probably do have that arm, and check out on their websites. That's what I'm trying to do, is trying to add value. If you've got any ideas, again, please write them in the comments. I really want as many people as possible to help us help spread the message of where they can find careers. And just experiences as well. That's what it's all about. Number three, education. So education is things like schools, universities, but it's also things like further professional qualifications. So like in the construction industry, it could be things like RSCS and CIOB. Now, you would think that there would be a fall off with things like professional qualifications, actually what happens is that people are thinking about how robust they can make their CV. If they were to lose the job, if they have lost their job, people are now looking to add professional qualifications to their CV. So things like first aid, for example, you really think in terms of that there'll be decline in something like that, but actually what you'll see is people thinking outside the box now in terms of that they're reviewing their CV, what's out of date, what can I add to it to make me look more attractive, and things like that are great things to add to your CV. What happens in a recession is that obviously with companies downsizing, is they want tons of people and professionals that are willing to jump in and help in different ways. So something like first aid would be a great thing in terms of that. Obviously every company has to have first aiders, so that's something that's quite relatively simple to add to your CV and to get the certificate for. So jumping over to schools, in the UK, schools are publicly funded, which means that like government taxpayer money. What tends to happen in those industries is that you get pay freezes rather than pay cuts, and that could last for a few years. And I think that's something that happened last time around. Some people will be saying, some people in the comments will say, yeah, but tell us about private school, James, as well. They tend to not experience much downturn. You have to remember that a lot of time in private schools is that it's reduced classroom sizes. Essentially, yes, some parents will struggle and some kids will be coming out of private school to go into state schools, but very broadly speaking, they're going to be replaced by other students, so they're able to ride this out. So I think university is going to be an interesting one. Obviously, the fees for universities have jumped over the last 10 years, and they're astronomical now. And I think that it's getting to the point, surely, where they're going to start to experience a bite, hopefully. And this is obviously, there's no confirmation coming from me, but hopefully that a recession will actually bring the fees down to be a more sensible number, so that the debt that students are coming out with is just nowhere near as ridiculous as what it is now. But whether universities will experience a backlash or not because of the fees being so high, I don't know is the honest answer. My gut says no, in terms of the data will point you in a direction that universities actually stay steady during recessions. And the reason being is a bit like what I was explaining about professional qualifications, is that people want to make their CV as good as possible, and obviously having a degree on there is seen by many employers as a positive. I think another perspective to add to that is that if, as a student, if you're able to afford it, or if parents, if you're able to fund your children to go to university, it's probably not a bad hideout place really for a recession. I don't know if you heard Bill Gates recently say that he thought it would take the economy about 3 years to bounce back. That doesn't mean that we'll be in a recession for 3 years. Ultimately, I don't know. He doesn't know. I'd probably say that he's got a little bit more know-how and noose in the marketplace than I have. But what I'm saying is that it doesn't necessarily mean we're in a recession for 3 years. What you've got to remember is that essentially we're going to be experiencing a down curve, and at some point we will hit the bottom where we will start to bounce back. So when we do hit the bottom and start to bounce back, obviously that's where more career opportunities will come back into it, pay rises will start to come back in, and things like that. Going back to university example, is that if you're at university for 3 years, obviously it's highly likely that by the time you're graduating, you'll be in an economy that's growing again, and there'll be more opportunities out there for you. Going back to the overall theme in terms of education tends to stay rock solid for a recession. Like I said, it's better in your CV, whether you're an undergraduate through to whether you're a professional already. Another thing to look out for in terms of the whole uni aspect that I've just been talking about is remember to look out for apprenticeships. Tons of people think that apprenticeships will die in a recession. They actually tend not to, because if you think about it from a cutting perspective, obviously tons of companies now are thinking about how they save money. Well, apprentices are the sort of cheapest labour aspect that you can bring into a firm. So people actually may continue to keep apprenticeships going because it actually brings cheaper labour into their companies than currently what's there. So don't think that apprentices are going to stop. They won't. They may slow down for the next few months in terms of while we're going through the uncertain times. I fully expect those to recover because, again, it's such a cheap form of labour. It's the cheapest form of labour for a company rather than hiring someone that's fully qualified. So keep an eye out for apprenticeships. I expect them to bounce back pretty quickly.
I started a university degree, but it wasn't for me. What I really wanted to do was work in social media. My mum told me about an apprenticeship at Channel 4. I looked into it and thought, this looks perfect.
Last sector I want to mention is financial services. So financial services cover things like accountants, auditors, underwriters, those types of things. A lot of people maybe screaming at the screen at me saying, but surely they're going to lose a lot of business because when businesses go, obviously they're not going to be paying their accountants. Now that's obviously true, but what you have to remember is that in the short to mid-term, a lot of people, or a lot of employees, or a lot of owners of those businesses that do go will be starting new businesses, and they're probably going back to those accountants. So actually what tends to happen is that, particularly in the mid-term, is that accountants actually pick up a lot of new clients out of a recession. What you have to remember about these professions is that they're often legal requirements for businesses to be able to actually function. So they won't see a drop off in their existing clients. They may lose some clients, like I said, and gain some back, but they absolutely, in terms of as a general through the recession, they may have a blip at the beginning, but they generally stay relatively flat and can actually grow through a recession. Just jumping back to my point about small businesses being born out of a recession, what you have to remember is that in a recession, people are tightening their purse strings, so they're looking for cheaper alternatives and cost savings where they can. So when a small company is born that may consist of people that they're used to working for from a previous company, they're more keen to use them than ever before. What you might find in the workplace, like in the last few years, is that people are saying, oh, we can't work with them, they're too small. Now what you'll see in a recession is that actually let's give these guys a chance because they're 20-30% cheaper than what we're currently paying. So that's where tons of opportunity comes out of a recession. So if you're in a situation at the minute that you may have lost your job, or you may have taken a huge pay cut, but you might be able to get a better opportunity at a small company, I'd say actually jump at the opportunity. The biggest differences you'll find is that you'll just have to jump in and learn other aspects of a business that when you're a big business, a lot of people don't realize is that because you've got so many different departments, you don't really understand much about, say, the accounting function of your business and how it works. But when you're in a small company, the ethos is to help wherever you can. So particularly if you're interviewing, just a bit of advice in terms of that, I noticed this through the recession in terms of is that tons of people would ask me about, was I happy to jump in different aspects of the business? And that's something that I love learning about, different aspects of it. So if you're in an interview situation and that comes up, obviously try and get that across maybe without even being asked, that you've got an enthusiasm for learning and helping other aspects of the business, because it's definitely brownie points during a recession. Definitely don't see the recession as all doom and gloom. There's been so much opportunity come out of this. Make sure you just keep in contact with everyone. Go back through your LinkedIn contacts. The younger audience, in terms of that, reach out to friends and family. That it's the most underutilized aspect. Very recently I spent some time with my cousins and I didn't know like what professions that a couple of them had. I definitely didn't know what professions their other halves had. So you definitely reach out with your existing network. I'm going to do another video in terms of that, how to get job experience and how to meet new people. That's something that's coming up. If you've got any ideas or topics you want me to cover for videos, please let me know in the comment section. I'm completely open to talking about anything that you want me to and adding value where I can, or just creating a platform where it may be that I can't offer as much wisdom, but if I do a video on the topic, it allows the comment section to grow and to give you advice that I may not necessarily be able to provide. If you've got any value out of the video, please smash the like button. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.